Hope you had a happy 4th. I know we did. I got lobsterified, burned to a crisp on Thursday. But welcome back to the Cardboard Critics podcast for episode 7 of the greatest show on a foldable table with a black tablecloth over it. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Hollywood. To my right there is the Joe Bro. That's Joe Nasty, as always. The hobby takes no weeks off, even for a holiday. We're officially in that midsummer, no football, no basketball, dead period.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've got baseball in full swing. Pretty awesome.
Full swing.
Of course, we've got Euro, Copa America going on as well, and the Olympics next up on the radar in just a few weeks. But we're going to start this week with our MLB update. Of course, the All-Star rosters were released just today. Well, not the starters. The starters were released previously, but the rest of the roster was filled out today. The Orioles lead the AL East as the Yankees can't seem to put together wins in any sort of remotely consistent fashion.
Yeah.
Houston inching closer to the Mariners. They are a few games over 500 now. What are your thoughts on the MLB so far?
Really interesting. By the way, really brave of you to wear literally the team that's called the Reds while your skin tone is of a reddish hue after your time in the sun.
It might have faded a little bit. Not as red as I was.
It could only go down.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. What's happening in the AL East is pretty crazy. Aaron Judge is having the type of first half and the type of season that articles are coming out where they're saying this is how it compares to Barry Bonds. This is how it compares to Babe Ruth. That's the kind of first half he's having. 83 RBIs before the All-Star break is ridiculous. But they're not winning. And Garrett Cole is back. They have this rookie sensation, and yet they're not winning. So we talked about it last week with the trade deadline looming. Watch the Bronx. Watch the Bronx.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Yankees, they get in a scenario where they fall more than, say, 4 or 5 games behind the Orioles. And I know with the extra wild card slot, maybe not as much of a worry.
Sure.
But in a year where the offseason is a little uncertain in terms of, are we going to get Soto back?
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. This is a year where the Yankees seemingly need to really go for it. Mm-hmm. So I would not be surprised, as you said, if they made a big trade in the next few weeks, try and right the ship, so to say. As we move into our hobby news section of today's show, Walmart has announced a collectibles marketplace. Very interesting. Basically, what we mean by marketplace is a way to buy, sell cards, memorabilia, similar to like how people sell stuff on eBay.
Right.
But obviously, Walmart is a company that sells cards on the rack, right? Mm-hmm. But this is the first time they're rolling something out for sports cards specifically. It's obviously a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yep. Yeah.
But I have a few concerns about this. I wanted to hear kind of what your concerns, positives, negatives are. So I'll start with you.
Yeah, first and foremost, barring some sort of sponsorship, which you can put right here if you needed, it's not going to make me necessarily want to go to Walmart anymore. We also live in Southern California, where I truly could not tell you where our nearest Walmart is. More of a Target kind of landscape.
It's more of a Target area.
It's more of a Target area for Target. I will say first and foremost, it shows the viability and that this world, this hobby, this everything, whatever you want to call it, is not waning. This is not a Corona type of situation where people are bored and doing something. No, Walmart makes decisions based off of what can make them the most money, and they're unfortunately pretty good at it, whether you agree with their methods or not. So it's not waning. It means it's a viable market. Now, I will be interested to see what you say and your opinion, because you know much more about this than I do, but perhaps there's an avenue here where the market gets maybe watered down a bit, and you have people buying these collections that maybe shouldn't or can't afford it, and the prices are being depressed a bit because of where they're being sold. That'd be my first reaction.
Right. So I'm just going to go on to what my basic thesis is on this, which eBay over the past few years, they are the marquee, let's say, sales platform in the world. Basically, you have eBay, you have Golden Auctions, PWCC, of course, was purchased by Fanatics and is now gone. They were a big one. But what's one of the big things that people talk about when you're buying online? It's how do you know that what you're buying is real?
Sure, yeah.
And so eBay, Golden, these companies all work directly with PSA in order to authenticate orders. For example, this card right here, this one's spinning here. Oh, actually, I mean, all these cards.
Love that, by the way.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I'm doing that with my mind. But when you buy a card like this on a Golden or an eBay, let's take an eBay in particular, you have this little check mark that says authenticity guarantee. And that means that the seller ships this card to PSA. PSA re-authenticates it, ensures that you are getting an authentic card, and then it ships out to you. Obviously, that takes a lot of business relations and logistics to get the card from A to B, to get it from seller's hands to PSA to buyer's hands. So Walmart certainly has the resources. They have the money to make this right and make it work.
Sure.
But in my opinion, until we see the full logistics of it operating in a way where buyers can trust what they're buying, I don't buy it until then.
Right.
Right?
I mean, eBay it's based off of being an auction website. Like, it's based off of bidding. The whole basis of it is essentially for this purpose. And, like, people use it for the higher quality. Like, Walmart, you don't really think about getting, well, I'm going to get my children's diapers plus an Aaron Judge card. Plus an Ohtani.
Yeah, exactly.
While I'm here.
Exactly. I got my packets of fried rice and I got my Shohei Ohtani 5-star rookie autograph number 50 today.
You really can get everything you need at Walmart.
Truly. But we're going to do our market update, our sports card market update now. The SCI Top 500 Index is down 1.5% on the week. That includes all of the cards that you're seeing on your screen right now, just to name a few, as we continue to see a peel back, generally speaking, over the past few years since the COVID boom. Of course, the COVID boom was insane for cards. I mean, stuff spiked 1,000% more in some cases. I mean, it was crazy.
People had a lot of time.
Yeah, people had a lot of time on their hands, a lot of stimulus checks to spend on their hands.
Yeah.
But we're going to move into our hot cards that are driving the markets this week. And number one on our list is the 1990 Fleer Michael Jordan PSA 10. The 90 Fleer Jordan PSA 10 gained 11.5% this week with 17 sales up to $218 per card. It was a $199 card a week ago. I've always loved this card.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best looking images, in my opinion, aside from, obviously his 86 Fleer card is an awesome image as well. Sure. But in terms of the image, this is probably my favorite Jordan card outside of the 86 Fleer, and I think it's kind of about time that it gets respect.
Sure.
This was the year before Jordan went on that big run, three championships in a row, his first three. I think that's kind of cool significance that you can still get this for $200. What are your thoughts on it?
Really cool looking card, as the people I'm sure are going to be looking at it in just a moment graphically. It's essentially the Air Jordan logo personified in card form.
Right.
And the thing I noticed as I was studying the background of it is that very much looks to be the New York Knicks and Patrick Ewing back there, right? Which means that you have the Air Jordan logo, him throwing down a slam-a-jam-a-ding-dong, and that actually that is Scotty behind him, right? Number 33.
It is.
And on top of that, it means that they're playing the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. And I know that because back in the day, up until like 4 years ago, you actually knew what teams were wearing at home
Right.
or on the road before Nike ruined the NBA uniform game. Now you turn on a game, they could be wearing dark uniforms at home with an alternate court, and you truly would have no idea where or who's playing.
I mean, the one that bothers me is when the Nuggets wear the area code one.
Oh, yes. Or the area code or the mileage.
Come on, both.
You know what killed me? Like, truly, and I know we hate on the Celtics a lot because of our location and growing up. No, but this blew my mind. In the NBA Finals, and I think it was Game 2, the Boston Celtics, one of the finest franchises in all of sports, wore black home jerseys
Yeah.
on the parquet at the Garden. I know it's the TD Garden now, so it's already a little bastardized. But the Boston Celtics did not be wearing those green and whites in the NBA Finals. I wanted to heave.
It just seemed wrong.
It's
just
wrong.
seemed
It's bad.
wrong.
It's ugly. It doesn't work. I hated it.
Jordan Red, 1990
Perfection.
PSA 10 Fleer.
In Madison Square Garden with the Knickerbockers in the back. That's how you do it.
Look, I really don't think it gets much better vintage Jordan than that 1990 Fleer. That's just our opinion, of course. Everyone is entitled to their own.
We're just correct.
Exactly. But we're going to move on to card number 2, and it is the 2023 Bowman U now, number 15 card of Caitlin Clark in a PSA 10. That card saw a 60% gain in the past week, 20 sales, $76.25 was the last sale, up from $51 just about a week ago, and even cheaper about 10 days before that. But this card, why is it special? Well, it says kind of on the bottom of it, it's a college card, but on the bottom of it, it says first NCAA Division I player to 3,000 points, 750 rebounds, and 750 assists on the bottom. Of course, Caitlin was drafted first overall by the Indiana Fever.
She was.
After coming up short again in the national championship game, unfortunately. But she has really, and I mean really, put the WNBA on the map. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. You know, we were having some 4th of July festivities the other day, and we had the Fever game on.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was on. Maybe it was before you got there. But,
it must have been. I did not see that.
But look, Caitlin Clark has totally changed the face and reach of women's sports. And I think it's really cool that we have a card like this, and a lot of her cards going up a lot in value. What do you think about Caitlin Clark? What do you think about this particular card? Mm-hmm. I know you've seen the images.
Yeah. So this, of course, comes on the heels of her becoming the first ever WNBA rookie to record a triple-double this past week. Really remarkable feat. Kind of crazy that hadn't happened with someone like Maya Moore or Breonna Stewart back in the day. But Taurasi, super, you name it.
Yeah.
But it was of course Caitlin Clark who accomplished it, sort of adding to the lore. The Caitlin Clark discourse really bothers me because we've gone through the last couple of years as women's college basketball has risen in popularity, as has somewhat the WNBA. And for years, I feel like as a sports fan, I've been shouted at, pay more attention to the WNBA. These are amazing athletes. This is good basketball. These are people putting their blood, sweat, and tears into this game, which I completely respect. But all of a sudden, Caitlin Clark comes in, and I feel like those same people are all of a sudden saying, no, don't pay more attention like this. You know, God forbid, and I looked at the All-Star voting numbers. It's the most votes that have ever been cast. You look at the TV ratings, it's more people have been watching than ever before. And I'm sorry, you may not like the face, you may not like the person or the way that it's going about, but the WNBA has never thrived as much as it is right now. Shout out Lisa Leslie, shout out Cheryl Swoops, and the people that laid down the groundwork 100% as you and I were growing up and the league first started. All those legends. Dawn Staley, who's now an amazing college basketball coach at South Carolina. But all that truly matters in the Caitlin Clark discourse is that I was sitting having a coffee in West LA, in West Los Angeles, nowhere close to Des Moines. And a young lady walked by wearing an Iowa number 22 Caitlin Clark jersey. That's what it's about. I don't care about your discourse. I don't care how you feel about how this is going. It's about that now there's a face that young ladies can now look up to and say, I want to be like that. Mm-hmm. And that's really what this is truly about.
Well, and to go a little further or piggyback off that, I think really a face for not just young ladies to look up to, but really everyone.
For sure.
I was in a card shop a couple months ago, and here in LA, I was at LA Sports Cards out in Burbank, and someone was opening up Bowman Chrome U basketball, and they pulled 2 Caitlin Clark autographs in the same pack.
Very cool.
And the whole store went nuts.
Awesome.
Keep in mind, this is all guys. in the store.
Sure, okay.
Everyone went nuts. Caitlin Clark is transcending the line, is transcending gender lines. She's taking, what she's doing is incredible.
I agree.
And I think her cards are going to continue to hold a lot of value going forward, considering what she has done for women's sports in general. A little more parity in terms of, watching the NCAA men's tournament, the NCAA women's tournament, the WNBA, the NBA.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
100% agree. And she's playing well.
She is. And we're gonna move now to our, of course, for every champ, there's a loser.
True.
For every Lone Star, a dark helmet.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut.
And for every Moltres, a Voltorb.
What's wrong with Voltorb?
Who is literally a Pokeball with a face on it.
Yes, and that's just got a little too charged up.
Here are our cold cards of the week, starting with the 2022 Brock Purdy Prism PSA 10. Down 12.3%, 20 sales, $100 a card. It was a $115 card a week ago. Of course, Brock Purdy was the Super Bowl runner-up last year. In his career, he's thrown for 44 touchdowns, 15 picks. That San Francisco team looks like they're going to have a great shot to come out of the NFC every year for who knows how much longer.
Yeah.
I was a little bit surprised at this, especially going into the National. Of course, the National being the biggest sports card convention of the year. It is coming up. Usually football cards tend to pick up at the National or right before as people try to buy up football cards for the upcoming season. But Brock Purdy down to $100 for a PSA 10. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm just not really a Brock Purdy guy. He seems like a lovely person.
Fair.
Truly. And you're right, that Niners team looks primed for at least a couple more runs. I would be shocked if they don't come out of the NFC once again. And that has nothing to do with Brock Purdy. It's because that roster is ridiculous. Fred Warner, Christian McCaffrey, the offensive line is always good. George Kittle. I'm not going to do name soup right now, but I'm hoping that this is sort of a sign of people being like, I don't really care about a Brock Purdy card. The guy isn't the valuable part of that team. Any 49ers success is not going to come from... It's going to come from him not turning the ball over, essentially, which Jimmy G did pretty well until they needed him to win a game, which he couldn't do.
Right.
And when the Niners needed him to overcome Patrick Mahomes, the better player won out. And I don't think the better team won. I think the best player of his generation won. And that was the difference.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My thoughts on this, I think Brock Purdy is... I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's elite per se.
No.
I think what I want to compare it to is, say, C.J. Stroud, right? We talked about C.J. Stroud's PSA 10 Prism a couple weeks ago. I think it was around $115. Jordan Love's is sitting at $100, obviously right along the same line as Brock Purdy. You have, Anthony Richardson, maybe not the best comparison, but he was sitting at around $70. I think Jordan Love, to me, has more gifts, more talent as a quarterback. However, like you said, I think the Packers, for example, might be, say, one of the bigger 3 or 4 threats out of the NFC. But Jordan Love is just, I think, has the ability to take a game over more than Brock Purdy does at this point, right? But Brock Purdy has all these guys around him that Jordan Love doesn't have.
Nope.
And so, I really think Brock Purdy's cards are solely going to end up being based on whether that team wins a Super Bowl or not. Yeah. I don't think him as a singular quarterback putting up stats is going to move the needle like his team getting back to a Super Bowl, maybe winning a Super Bowl moves the needle.
Sure, I agree.
That's my thoughts on Brock Purdy.
Do you think if you put Purdy on last year's Texans team, they still even make the playoffs, as opposed to what C.J. Stroud did? It's tough because you're comparing a rookie to like a couple-year vet, but you get the gist of what I'm saying.
I think C.J. Stroud takes that team further than Brock Purdy does.
Yeah, I think so too.
Again, You feel free to disagree with us, but we're right. As we move into our second cold card of the week, and this one was a really surprising one.
Very.
It is the 2022 first Bowman Chrome Sapphire card of James Wood in a PSA 10. Of course, James Wood was just called up last week, but that card somehow in the past week is down 22.9%. It is $82 a card in a PSA 10, 22 sales. It was $98 just a week ago. Of course, in the minors, James Wood had a 300 plus average, hit over 50 homers, drove in over 200 ribs, stole 60 bases. This dude had a 900 plus OPS, showed 5-tool characteristics the whole way through. Came up to the majors, and what has he done? He's hit, I'm pretty sure, close to 300. He has hit a homer. He has 6 RBIs in less than a week. He's stolen a base. He has an OPS near 900. Yet his card is down 23%.
Yeah, fans are fickle. Fans are very fickle. First of all, the kid gets called up, the number 2 prospect in baseball. And as you said, he hit his first career home run. He's also hitting, you said near 300? He's hitting 320. You said he's near 900 OPS? He's over 900. In fact, he's hitting, or he's performing at a 932 OPS, which is basically at all-star level. The kid is toolsy. He's got everything you need. And I think we talked about him either in episode 1 or our pilot.
Yeah, I think it was pilot.
I think it was our pilot. And I completely forgot the fact that he's 6'7", which is ridiculous. Of course, came to the Nationals in the Juan Soto deal. And so far, C.J. Abrams is very good. So far, Mackenzie Gore has refined his delivery.
He's very good.
Very good. And James Wood has the potential to be an excellent player. You might look down the road here and say, wow, that trade didn't go so hot for San Diego.
You know, it's interesting. You know who James Wood kind of reminds me of?
Tell me.
He reminds me a little bit of Ellie De La Cruz.
Tall, lanky.
6'6", 6'7" lefty, has a lot of speed, a lot of power, and I'll give it to James Wood. He does not strike out as much as Ellie De La Cruz. In my opinion, I know we're talking about his non-autographed Bowman right now. His first autographed Bowman, I think, is going in a PSA 10 is in somewhere in the $400 range, right? Wyatt Langford's sitting at like $500 still, $500 plus even a little bit. I absolutely love this kid. I think his ceiling is just the moon. I mean, this kid could be such a huge game changer for the Nationals. And that, you know, in that young core, this could be one of the most exciting teams to watch in the next few years. I think it's ridiculous that this card is down 23%.
I agree.
I'm buying on James Wood all day right now.
100%. And to your point, you said the strikeouts. In his 52 AAA games this year, it's basically 1-for-1. 40 walks, 42 strikeouts, which I know he's too good for AAA, but that's still pretty remarkable against great pitching.
Especially considering Ellie was still striking out 1.5 to 2 times per game in the minors.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So we're going to move on into our last segment of the podcast, and that's our investment card of the week. And our investment card is the 2022 Jackson Chourio Bowman Chrome first autograph in a PSA 10. It is down 58.9% since the season started. It is a $380 card now from nearly $1,000 at the start of the season. Of course, the Brewers made it known that he was going to start opening day on the opening day roster. That kind of spurred the sales of this card. It was at $1,000. Of course, in the minors, Jackson Chourio was high average, a lot of power, kind of similar numbers actually to James Wood, like we talked about earlier. But it was to be specific, it was a 286 average with 47 homers, 191 RBIs, and 68 stolen bases. So again, another 5-tool player. Super young, super duper young.
Beyond young.
So far in the majors, he's hit 250 with 9 homers, 35 RBIs, 9 steals, and around a 700 OPS. He was hurt for a little bit, so that's why his numbers are kind of kind of down, but he hasn't quite transitioned as hot as some people would have imagined. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Churio, down, 59%. Early still, first 6 months of what's going to be probably a 17-year career?
Yeah, probably.
Thoughts?
Are you ready to have a nice conversation about intangibles?
Sure.
Because here's the thing. Yes, his numbers go up and down.
Can't see it.
And you just read off his major league numbers. They don't pop off the page.
No.
A batting average that's right there, 250. What depends on the day.
250 is actually not that bad in this day and age.
No, and that's the thing. Batting averages have never been lower, actually, in the history of baseball. So 250 is actually pretty serviceable. The OPS is around 700, which is basically league average. But let's talk intangibles. He's recently been inserted into the leadoff spot for what has been a very surprising offense, which means this is what they're doing. They're asking, hey, 20-year-old kid, can you set the table for what has become a resurgent Christian Yelich? Like, can you be the guy that we are going to trust and we're going to say, we believe you can do this? Can you get on base? Can you make things happen ahead of what was once the best hitter in baseball and is once again sort of hitting like that old best player in baseball?
For a legitimate playoff push.
Exactly. 20 years old. The kid is not comfortable with English yet. I watched some interviews with him today. It's getting translated, which fine. You want to make sure your answers are getting clearly across. I have no problem with that. But as a 20-year-old from Venezuela who doesn't feel comfortable with the English language, who is leading off for a division leader, all that says to me, and the numbers are fine. When I just laid all that out, the numbers are fine. Get in on the Churio train. Ooh, a Churio train.
Churio train. Has a ring to it.
I kind of like that.
Choo choo.
The choo-choo Churio train.
Choo choo Churio.
Now I want a churro. But all that says to me is this is a kid that knows what he's doing. Everyone behind the scenes who know 100% more baseball than I ever will sees all that they need.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like we talked about earlier, James Woods' first autograph PSA 10 in the 400s, Wyatt Langford's in the 500s, Ellie De La Cruz around $1,000 plus. Jackson Churio, this card is now sitting in the 300s. Yeah. The numbers aren't bad. Did they leave something to be desired? Sure.
Yes.
But you can see, and even though the numbers are only 9 home runs and 35 RBIs and 6 stolen bases, I think it was. But even if you just look at that small sample size, how balanced is that?
Yeah.
It's power, it's driving in runs, it's speed. The OPS and the average will come as he gets used to MLB pitching. I love this kid. I think at $300, it's a buy. My hype button does not work.
Should turn it on first.
Actually, yeah,
there you go.
Switches, yeah. We love Jackson Churio. But that'll do it for us here today on episode 7 of the Cardboard Critics podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. If you haven't already, and crazy, this number is getting even higher. Over 94% of you guys who watch us are not currently subscribed to the channel.
That's not.
No, not that. That was close. So do you boys a favor and hit the subscribe button. So until next time, I'm Mr. Hollywood. That's Joe Nasty. We'll see you next week, right back here at Hollywood Rips. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Mr. Hollywood, out.